Hello, everybody. Andrew Field here. I know there's a lot that's obviously happened in the past 2 weeks. I want to apologize. I was on vacation, so I wasn't able to make a video. But I wrote everything down, and there's a lot to cover, so I'm going to try and get through it quickly. Um, Biden gave a speech that was very powerful on the Capitol invasion. Police found guns and bombs near the Capitol. Two Capitol police officers were suspended. Many were under investigation. Video came out of an officer being crushed in a door by a mob of rioters during the pro-Trump siege of the Capitol. People who stormed the Capitol shouted "Hang Mike Pence" and wanted to harm Pelosi as well, along with probably other congressmen and women. A police officer was dragged down the stairs and beaten. One person beat the officer with an American flag. Just more moments that showcase how bad of a day January 6th was, with the insurrection attempt that thankfully failed. They also were doing that while shouting USA. The mob that breached the Capitol was more coordinated than people thought. Um, Thankfully, the FBI coordinated a lot of arrests of these people. The man photographed holding the Confederate flag inside the Capitol was thankfully arrested in Delaware. Seattle police are investigating officers that were in D.C. that may have participated in the riot. Um, while the Capitol was being stormed, I learned that Melania Trump was doing a photo shoot in the White House and was silent about what happened. Thankfully, she's an ex-First Lady now, and she was definitely a disgrace to the office of the First Lady. Um, Capitol rioters are also getting fired from their jobs, which is a good thing. After social media users identify the people, the person who put his feet on Pelosi's desk was arrested, along with a legislator who live streamed breaking into the Capitol. The police arrested the man who was carrying Pelosi's podium. Um, Trump's domestic terrorists were also put on the no-fly list, so they couldn't leave Washington, D.C. The updated numbers were police making 68 arrests, and I think they made more. 56 officers were injured. The Capitol lowered the flag to half-mast following the event of the Capitol being breached. The White House did not lower their flags until a few days later. Nancy Pelosi urged Mike Pence to invoke the 25th Amendment, which would remove Trump from office, um, and threatened impeachment proceedings and called for his resignation. The resignation of the Capitol Police Chief. Trump released a video on the 7th that was totally, scripted, saying he lost the election and is transitioning to the next presidency. It was mainly just damage control. I mean, it was good he finally did it, but it was much too late, and it was, like I say, damage control from what happened the day prior. Pence did not discuss the 25th Amendment with any cabinet members. He was against it from the beginning. And I would say shame on Mike Pence because that definitely deserved invoking the 25th Amendment, and that's why it's in the Constitution. So shame on Mike Pence for not enacting that. House Democrats had a quick impeachment vote. They got the article written very quickly. Um, I think they were saying Pence was saying he did not rule out the 25th Amendment in case Trump got more unstable, but that was just stupid. The newspapers, the Wall Street Journal and USA Today, called on Trump to resign. Republican Maryland Governor Hogan, one of three Republican governors, called for Trump's impeachment. Um, John Kelly supported invoking the 25th Amendment. Donald Trump's niece, said that he should be removed immediately. Ben and Jerry's said Trump should resign or be impeached. Tim Scott, the Republican, opposed impeaching Trump, and there was a good amount of Republicans who thought that way too, and shame on all of them. History will look down on all of them. Representative Jerry Nadler, chairman of the House Judiciary Committee, called on Trump to be impeached. The House quickly came up with an article of impeachment. charging him with incitement of insurrection. Um, let's see. The Republicans blocked the Democrats' attempt to pressure Pence to remove Trump. Pence also met with Trump, which I think is really crazy. Maryland Governor Hogan said he was denied authority to send the Maryland National Guard because you need federal authority from the Secretary of State to do that. And he denied that request multiple times. Pence allowed the National Guard to get there. He was the one who sent, not Trump. Trump orchestrated the attack, and he definitely should have been removed and jailed for that. McConnell spoke on how the election wasn't close right before the Capitol invasion happened. Trump supporters spoke about efforts to march back to the Capitol and all 50 state capitals. Thankfully, that did not happen. For the most part, there was, I think, one state, maybe Minnesota, where there were like 12 Trump supporters, but there was a lot of law enforcement there, so it didn't, nothing happened out of that. Airbnb, the hotel service, canceled reservations in the DC area during inauguration week. They also banned members associating with breaking into the Capitol, which is really amazing. Ali Alexander, founder of Stop the Steal campaign, claimed he, Representative Mo Brooks, Representative Paul Gosar, and Representative Andy Biggs set the January 6th Capitol storming plan to action. They should all be removed from Congress and charged for that. In a bipartisan rebuke, House members voted to impeach Trump, so he officially became impeached a second time. First president to ever do that. He was charged in inciting violence, and the good news is it's the first time there was, I think, 0 House Republicans that sided with the Democrats, but this time 10 House Republicans voted to impeach Trump. Senator Minority Leader McConnell said that the Capitol Hill mob was provoked by Trump yesterday. Very bold statement, and although I don't like Mitch McConnell, I really appreciate how he's handling that. Maybe it's just because his life was at risk as well, but finally he's getting some balls and, putting country over party. So that was very awesome. These people were really pathetic for resigning instead of, staying for maybe a vote in the cabinet about the 25th Amendment. Education Secretary DeVos and Transportation Secretary Chow resigned. A Trump lawyer was sued for $1.3 billion for defamation. Trump tweeted he would not attend Biden's inauguration. That was the last tweet he ever sent. Biden said he thinks it's a good thing, which I agree. Less controversy. Trump did not congratulate Biden. He left a letter for him, though. On January 6th, the COVID numbers were 4,100 Americans died that day. 261,000 cases. Portugal reported 10,000 cases. The 7th, it was 279,000 cases, 4,200 deaths reported that day. At the time, on the 7th, we had 22 million cases in America, 374,000 deaths. A week later, on the 14th, we had 390,000 deaths, 11 million vaccines administered. The U.S. reported more than 200,000 cases for 10 consecutive days, and I didn't see the more recent numbers, but they're probably around the same. The CDC ordered all international air passengers to get that are coming to the U.S. to get tested negative for COVID-19 before entering the U.S. COVID vaccine guidelines are expanded to include adults 65 and up. The highly transmissible coronavirus variant is spreading rapidly in the United States and is expected to be the dominant strain in March, so not in a very long time. I mean, in a short amount of time, it will be the dominant strain in America, which shows how quickly that strain can spread. The new virus strain, the article I was reading said that 80% of the population needs to get vaccinated for things to fully go back to normal. Um, Biden announced his pick for Attorney General, Merrick Garland, the man the Senate refused to hear for the Supreme Court justice that Obama was trying to appoint in 2015. So it's kind of a good ending for him to be able to be the Attorney General. Um, Newly seated Representative Mary Miller, representative from my state of Illinois, was very stupid, and she apologized for quoting Hitler. Said that Hitler was right about influencing the nation's youth. It's too bad she got elected. There was a search and rescue operation underway in Indonesia after a plane lost contact, and I think it was a Boeing 737 Max. So those that plane type shouldn't be flying anymore. There's just too many instances with that plane. They just cleared it, and now another plane is lost. Uganda ordered all social media to be blocked, and the ban was because Facebook blocked pro-government accounts, which is pretty scary stuff because that's a good way for people in the country to spread what's going on. So now we kind of lost contact with the people of Uganda, and hopefully everything's okay over there. House Minority Leader McCarthy told GOP members the riot was not Antifa and said not to spread misinformation about the pro-Trump mob. Again, someone I don't really care for, but I appreciate him taking those steps. That seems simple, but it's a big deal for the Republican Party. Trump admitted to McCarthy he was partly to blame for the violence at the U.S. Capitol. Donald Trump was set to give Bill Belichick the Presidential Medal of Freedom, which is not really deserved. Representative Jim Jordan accepted the invite to get the medal. He definitely did not deserve the medal, but thankfully Coach Bill Belichick valiantly declined. Biden nominated William J. Burns, a former career diplomat, to run the CIA. Twitter banned Michael Flynn, Sidney Powell, and in a QAnon account purge. Hundreds of Twitter employees signed a petition to CEO Jack Dorsey to permanently suspend Trump's account. Trump was already banned from Instagram, Snapchat, Twitch, and other services. Twitter permanently banned Trump. He tried to use his presidential account, and they removed those tweets. And he tried to tweet several other times, and Twitter shut him down. In the beginning, when you looked at his account, you wouldn't be able to see his tweets, and it said account suspended. And now I tried looking it up today, and that account, I guess, doesn't even exist anymore. So I'm really proud of social media companies. I mean, they have the right, they're private companies, they can remove or add anyone they want. They're not public companies, and they're not owned by the US government. But I really appreciate companies like Twitter and Instagram and Facebook that did the right thing of removing President Trump because he was just inciting violence and creating problems. So now he doesn't really have a platform to speak, and now that he's not president, hopefully he'll fade away until we hear that he either died or went to jail. That would be great. Let's see. Platform Shopify. It affiliated with Trump. They removed him as well. Donald Trump joined the white nationalist app Parler, and thankfully they struck again. Google suspended Parler from their Play Store. Apple gave a 24-hour warning and then removed Parler as well. And Amazon removed Parler, so Parler is kind of offline. They don't really, they're not really much of a platform now with no support from Amazon, Apple, and Google. So good for those companies to step up. Excuse me. Trump wanted a military send-off. Thankfully, I don't think he got it. Before becoming ex-president, Trump Homeland Security Chief Chad Wolf quit as more attacks quit right before the attacks were supposed to be underway, like the second attacks from the white supremacists. The FBI warned of planned nationwide armed protests. It doesn't seem like that happened, thankfully, because of the law enforcement and troops that were set there. Um, Army members were stationed at Washington, D.C. the first time since the Civil War. 30 plus House members, led by Representative Sherrill, say groups visited the Capitol on January 5th, like reconnaissance right before um, the insurrection on January 6th. They told the sergeant at arms, and people were showed the Capitol. They said people that showed them the Capitol were other members of Congress. I'm sure the two QAnon idiots in Congress were a part of that. Um, Pompeo accused China of genocide against Muslim Uyghurs in Xinjiang. The NRI filed for bankruptcy protection because they're pathetic. The Russian opposition leader Alexei um, Nav- Navalny. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. I appreciate his commitment to his country, but I don't think it's a good move that he's gotten poisoned multiple times from Putin because he's an opposition leader and he has a bit of following. They warned him that he'd get arrested if he came back to Moscow. Went to Moscow and was detained. Um, he spent 5 months in Germany, recovering from the poison. In terms of what the situation was like in Washington, D.C., there were 20,000 federal troops stationed there, and then the Pentagon sent another 5,000 additional troops, and they set up checkpoints and were very secure of the whole area. D.C. shut down for Biden's inauguration. The National Mall shut down. A man was stopped at a checkpoint and was arrested. He showed fake inauguration credentials, had a handgun and 500 rounds of ammunition. I think there was another event that wasn't talked as much about a man and women that were also arrested. So it was good that those checkpoints were there. And had those 25,000 troops not have been there, maybe a second attack would have happened. But I think the um, rioters realized that they weren't going to get through 25,000 troops. That was never going to happen. So it's good that they didn't show up at all. But, I kind of wish they did. I'm glad they didn't because there could have been other lives that were lost. But a part of me wishes that they were there because then they would have been able to arrest all those people. But it's good that it didn't come to that, I guess. Biden went to church before becoming president. He was there with, McConnell, Schumer, and Pelosi. He is the second Catholic president, along with Kennedy. Arnold Schwarzenegger, I wanted to shout him out. He gave a great speech about the Capitol invasion and how Americans must be united, and wish Biden the best of luck. There was a story that came out this past week about Jared and Ivanka Trump. If you don't already think they're bad people, they made the Secret Service pay taxpayers' money, $3,000 a month, to rent a separate apartment because the Trumps would not allow them to use their bathrooms. So if you think about it, they have this rich place. They're very rich. They have this very high-end apartment with probably many bathrooms, and they couldn't allow the Secret Service, who was protecting them and keeping them safe, to use their bathrooms. It's absolutely pathetic. And thankfully, all those idiot Trumps are gone. Not only Donald Trump, but Donald Trump Jr., Ivanka, Jared Kushner, and all those Trump appointees are all gone at the same time. It's very, very nice. Um, there was a fire at a homeless encampment that briefly halted activities at the U.S. Capitol, but it seemed that everything was okay. The Lowe's Hotel, I wanted to shout them out for doing a great thing. They canceled Senator Hawley's fundraising event. Um, Biden had an emotional speech ahead of his inauguration yesterday as he was leaving Delaware to head to Washington, D.C. Biden proposed a $1.9 trillion COVID-19 package called the American Rescue Plan, included $1,400 stimulus checks, $130 billion to reopen schools. It just seems like a great plan to get coronavirus finally under control, and also um, getting the vaccine registered and administered to as many people as possible. The U.S. Capitol officer Eugene Goodman, who was a brave officer who led the insurrectionists away from the Senate chamber, was named Deputy House Sergeant at Arms, and he escorted Vice President Kamala Harris. So that's a really great story for him. The Obamas, Clintons, and Bushes attended Biden's inauguration in a great sign of unity. Um, Idiot former President Obama did not show up, but everybody else was there, and in a way, it's good because it kind of removes him more from history, where we don't have to see him, during this great moment of Biden's inauguration and Kamala's inauguration. Amanda Gorman spoke, the youngest inaugural poet. I also wanted to say that Trump released some pardons before he left, but that's not really important. But with Amanda Gorman, she spoke and it was really amazing, and what she wore, I think, was symbolic too. Um, it was just a really good poem that she wrote, and she wrote it after the insurrection as well. So if you haven't seen that, I'd advise you to check that out along with President Biden's inauguration speech. Um, People like Jennifer Lopez and Lady Gaga sang, and Biden was officially sworn in as the 46th President of the United States at noon Eastern Time today. Biden had a really great first presidential speech, and I really appreciated how he gave a moment of silence because America passed a 400,000 death mark from COVID-19, and he gave a moment of silence to remember all those people that were lost. 400,000 is such a large number, and that number is going to go up probably a good amount before Biden gets it under control. So it was really great to see a president acknowledge COVID-19, the impact it's had on Americans, and grieve with them. So yeah, I hope you guys are excited as I am about Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. I have really great hope for them. I think Joe Biden is set to say or write 15 executive orders on day one, including getting back in the Paris Climate Agreement. So very great news. So yeah, we're gonna have to wait and see on that. But again, this administration I know is gonna do great things, and I'm really happy to look forward to it. So I hope you guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll talk to you later. Peace.